Welcome to the Hank Cisco Show. Don't touch that remote. We got a great show. This show is going to be talking about law enforcement. We're talking about law enforcement. We're going to talk about another agency that a lot of people are not aware of. And I spent 27 years with Norristown Police and 13 county detective, and I really never knew the real operation of a state constable. And I have here my friend who I met through his father, Donald SASSI, a great guy. I'm going to have him on my show next month, and that's going to be a very nice show. It's going to be about something that how a song inspired his father. And I don't want to tell no more about it, but that's the show that's coming up. And the song is Over There, Over There. But I'll tell you more about that later. And so my guest today is Rob SASSI. And his daughter Charity's here. She's in the ringside seat there. And she's making sure that he gets all the right answers. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to meet the state constable. All right, Rob SASSI. Now, you're a state constable. I see you have a badge of authority, right?
I do.
You are armed.
I am.
Right? You are an elected official.
That's correct.
Takes 6 years in office. So you're not just handpicked. You're not a political guy, right?
That's correct.
Right. So, now, tell me, how'd you get involved with that? What inspired you to want to be in law enforcement?
I think one of the biggest things was I always looked at people in law enforcement as...
Talk loud because my hearing aids.
One of the biggest things that inspired me was people in law enforcement, I always saw them as people that were there to help and help at some of the most desperate times. And I always admired that about people in law enforcement. As far as what inspired me to run for constable, it was actually, at the time, she was a friend of mine. Now she's actually one of the judges I work for, Judge Marge Hunsaker in Norristown.
Oh, yeah, Norristown. Yeah, but she's still in office.
Yes, yes. She's one of the judges I work for now. But she said, you know, you should think about running for constable someday. And I really didn't know what it was, but I looked into it, and that's how I got the idea to go for it.
Yeah, well, you're doing a good job about it, and I was so happy that you accepted to come here, to take the time to come here.
It's my pleasure.
Now, tell me, what is the function, some of the functions of a state constable? Now,
we are the law enforcement arm of the district courts.
Okay.
So
all right,
similar to what the Montgomery County sheriffs do for the Court of Common Pleas, a lot of those functions we do for the magisterial district court.
Okay.
So we will serve bench warrants. We will serve notices of civil hearings. We will execute on civil judgments. And we will perform, and this is probably one of the most dangerous parts of the job, landlord-tenant complaints. We will actually perform the evictions.
Yeah, now tell me eviction. Tell me the definition of eviction. It's more than just a little word. Tell me, that is really a time bomb.
Yeah, eviction.
I know a little bit about that because when I was at Norristown, we never had that much kind of training to go into a family argument, you know. And so when you have to serve a warrant or something, go on, tell me about it.
Well, when I have to perform an eviction, the process is the tenant is given a notice of a hearing date, and they have an opportunity to come before the judge and explain why they haven't paid. I really don't know of any legitimate reason why they don't pay, even if
don't want to pay.
Well,
maybe they have a gambling problem.
Well, no, but I mean a legitimate reason where a judge would say, "Oh yeah, don't worry about it." But so if the judge rules in favor of the landlord, then 10 days later they can file what's called an order of possession. And then at that point, I set an eviction date, and I go out and I post the property, and it's usually 10 days after that. So it's a total of like 20 days after the hearing that I would show up and say, okay, you must vacate the premises. And if they don't,
in other words, you give them 10 days to get out.
Right.
Physically, and how about furniture? Everything that they belong?
Well, there's laws regarding that as far as how much time, if they can't get all of their things out at the date of eviction, and they do notify the landlord within the first 10 days of their intent to get the rest of the things.
Okay.
Then they have a total of 30 days, including that first 10 days.
Yeah.
A total of 30 days to come and get the rest of the things. And the landlord is required by law to make those things available to them.
Yeah. And is there certain times, weather, like in the wintertime, throwing people out in the cold, is there something, a little something there to help them out a little bit?
You know,
that's up to...
It's kind of at my discretion. I mean, when a judge issues an order of possession, that order is good for 60 days.
Okay,
so
that's enough time.
Within 60 days, they have to leave. And, you know, normally I schedule it, it has to be at least 10 full days, but no more than 60 from the date of that order.
Yeah.
So I normally do schedule it within the 10 days, because at that point, the landlords already have gone, you know, 2 or 3 months without payment. So they're kind of anxious to turn the property over and rent it out and start bringing money in again. But, for instance, I'm not sure if it was this past winter or the winter before, we had a really significant snowfall. Then I did have a eviction schedule that date, and I said, look, I'm not throwing these people out in 3 feet of snow.
You know,
what are you going to do?
You know, Rob, I heard of a landlord, I don't want to mention who it is or anything, but he didn't go through the constables, and he'd tell a guy he wants the rent, and the guy wouldn't pay the rent, and he would open the door and get all the furniture and put it outside. I don't know whether it's legal or not, but I guess he said it's my property, you know, so, but, all right, now, how are you different than a police officer? You don't wear a uniform. Do you have a uniform, or the only thing you have a shirt, a jacket?
You know what? I do have a duty jacket that I wear during colder weather.
You wear that, you show your authority when you go there. That makes sense.
Yeah. The main difference is we don't patrol any specified area looking for crimes.
Right. Right.
Yours
is handed down by the judge.
Yeah, the arrests that we would make. No, usually the judge that we work for.
You're the judge, okay.
So any actions we take are specifically directed to us by the district judge that we work for. So we're not independently out there patrolling or anything like that. We're actually more or less waiting for the orders to come in from the judge to say, okay, you know, go out to this property or go out and find this guy or whatever.
Well, you usually give them all the benefit of the doubt.
Oh, without doubt. In fact, that's the other thing, and I wanted to stress this about constables. One of the things, and I'm in my 8th year now as a constable, so one of the things I learned about this job is I look at it as one of my primary functions is to help people resolve their issues with the court. It's not, I'm not out trying to make things harder for them or give them a hard time. I want to help them resolve their issue with the court so they can move on, I can move on, the court can move on.
And who's the president judge that is actually over the constable?
Judge Del Ritchie
he's a president judge.
He's the president judge of Montgomery County, and technically, by the Constitution of the Commonwealth, the president judge of the county oversees the constables. Now, that being said, I also obviously answer to the district judges I work for, of which there are 4 of them in Montgomery County. So Two of them actually are right here in Norristown. Judge Hunsaker, I work for. Also, Judge Gregory Scott.
Scott, he's the new one. He's in my ward.
Yeah.
Good guy.
Great guy.
Yeah.
And
every time you turn around, he's marrying somebody. I mean, everybody's going to be married, but it's up to him.
And I also work for, the judge I'm elected to is Judge Frank Bernhardt, in Plymouth Township.
Out of Norristown, right?
Plymouth Township.
Norristown has 3 now. We only had 2. We had Lawrence and Hunsaker, and then had nobody in the middle, and now Greg Scott is in the middle. Right. Yeah.
And then the 4th judge I work for is Judge Lukens in White Marsh.
Oh,
Judge
yeah.
Deborah Lukens.
That's
Who
a
said
lady.
hello, by the way. She told me to tell you hello.
Yeah, oh, she's great. Yeah,
she is.
Yeah,
she
and
is.
Her husband used to be a county detective.
Yes,
right.
yes, yeah.
You tell I said hi.
I will.
You know what? I'm going to get her come on my TV show.
You should.
I'd like to have her come on there. Yeah, I remember I went there with Frank Rizzo's brother-in-law, and it was a violation, and she took everything in consideration to give him the benefit of the doubt, whatever it was. But she took care of it. I really appreciate it. I realized when I come walking in, she recognized me, and I said, that was so great. It make feel good, because sometime after people leave and they get some kind of job, they forget about everybody else. But
well, and that's the other thing I wanna impress upon people, because I know people, and I used to be one of them before I got into this line of work. People walk into a courtroom, and it can be a very intimidating thing.
Oh yeah.
And, especially the judges that I work for, and I've learned this from them, they really go out of their way to try to say, look, don't worry, we're going to try to work this out.
We do have 3 good district justices in Norristown.
Yes.
I'm very proud of them, And, well, let me ask you now, how about training for constables? Is there a training, or is there
There is... the interesting thing about constables, we're independent contractors. So once we are elected, we can either choose to do work for the district courts, or we can choose to do nothing but election day security. Technically, people don't realize, when you go to the polling places, by the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, the security of polling places are left to the constables. So we are responsible to deputize people for each polling place in our township or borough or whatever municipality we're elected to. And that actually is one of the primary functions of a state constable. Now, you can certainly choose to get certified and go to work, perform district court work. But you do have to get certified. It's 80 hours of initial training, and then
where do you get the training? Where's that?
That is that curriculum is actually dictated by the Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency. Oh. That formerly was head up by our now Attorney General, Josh Shapiro. Used to be the head of the PCCD. But the PCCD dictates what the curriculum is for training and the requirements and whatnot. That's just for the classroom. Now, if you want to carry a firearm, you also need an additional 40 hours of certification and training.
That's good to know.
For that.
And I think you had an advantage that your dad was able to help you. He was in what, real estate and brokerage and everything. And he's as sharp as a tack.
Yeah, my father, both of my parents.
And that helped you with paperwork and stuff like that?
Oh yeah, with organization skills and stuff like that. But not only that, my parents, I'm extremely fortunate to grow up in the household that I did. My mother and father have always been very supportive, and I couldn't imagine where I'd be without parents like I have.
Well, yeah. Why, one of the most dangerous things is a constable, a policeman serving a warrant. And I'd say, I don't know whether you've been watching TV, but there's been some constables that were shot when they come to the door with a paper, And I know myself, when I I got a call of family disturbance, you know, and when I started as a policeman in Northtown in 1952, we got no training whatsoever. I know what we settled family fights. In my family, there's 4 boys, 4 girls, grandfather, an uncle, and there was always some kind of feud or something, but we were able to solve them. So I had a little experience on that. But I think when a policeman gets into a family argument without any training, he is a target, because the husband and the wife are arguing about something, and whatever you do, smart thing to do, don't argue in the kitchen where there's weapons, where there's a knife, where there's a club or something, you know. So you always try to separate them. You know, that's another special training.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that I decided to get involved in soon after I was elected, I actually went to an award ceremony for the Domestic Violence
That's a big
Legal
thing
Network
today.
of Montgomery County. And the reason I went to that ceremony was a good friend of mine.
You get went to training for this?
Well, no, this was just an award ceremony that I went to.
Okay, go ahead.
Initially, how I got involved in it. A very good friend of mine, our Montgomery County Prothonotary, Mark Levy, was receiving an award for the work he did in streamlining the protection from abuse process. Before he became Prothonotary, women were waiting, or victims I should say, because there were sometimes men too, were waiting, you know, sometimes the entire day, and sometimes they couldn't even get the temporary protection from abuse order that they desperately needed. And Mark really was proactive in streamlining that process. Mark Levy,
okay,
our Montgomery County Prothonotary.
He's still with the county.
Yes, he was very proactive in streamlining that process. So he was receiving an award, and I went there, and I was listening to stories of victims, and you know, thinking to myself, my God, you know, God forbid if I wasn't around and my daughter was ever in that situation, I would hope somebody would be there to help her.
Yeah.
And that's why after the ceremony, I had asked someone, you know, who escorts these women to get their things after a PFA is ordered or, you know, issued. And they said, well, sometimes nobody. And they either have to leave them behind or risk their life.
Yeah.
And so I said, well, now there is. And I gave that person my card and made myself available to perform that service, because I couldn't imagine having to leave a house and leave everything behind.
Don't they have a home or someplace now where women?
Yeah, I've
they had a little
actually
problem,
done,
but did they get the place yet? You know, I think they're going.
I don't know.
Was out there in
East
Norton.
Yeah. You're referring to Laurel House, which is a tremendous organization.
Yeah. Laurel House, that's what it is.
Yeah, I've done some volunteer stuff for them, and in fact, I guess this would be a good time to mention this Sunday, which I believe is May 7th. They have their biggest event of the year, which is Walk a Mile in Her Shoes, where men, you know, walk approximately a mile in high heels to raise money for.
You'll wind up with bunions.
Difficult. Yeah, right.
Holy mackerel!
But it's a great event. It's actually at Hebner Park. I guess it would be a good idea to also mention their website.
Well, I think maybe it's better off just put lipstick on. You know, walk a mile with lipstick. The heck with the high shoes. I don't know how they put up with it. My father was a shoemaker. All my 3 brothers, we all worked in the shoemaker shop. And when the women used to come in with these high heels, he said, you better watch it, because you're going to have trouble later on in life with your hips, because your body's like this, you know. Yeah. And it's true. I see these ladies walking like that. It's rough. And then when I see them walking down Atlantic City on the boardwalk with high heels, with spike heels, and then next thing you know, they're stuck in the boardwalk. Crazy. Wear moccasins, wear low shoes when you're going to travel. Ooh. All right, go ahead now. Tell me what else is interesting it's a heartwarming job too, even though it's dangerous. But there are some times when we can help someone. When you leave the house knowing that you helped somebody, that means so much.
Yeah, and I do have to say, I mean, I really feel like I found my calling. The more I got into this position and the more I was able to see what I can do with it, and how I can at least try to make a difference. I know it's a cliche, but the fact of the matter is, this being one of the lowest levels of law enforcement is actually a position that you can really truly make a difference for people, and it's been extremely satisfying.
Well, I was I'm not surprised, but I was surprised that you have the power of arrest, you carry a gun, and you know, today we're having so many demonstrations, riots and stuff, you know. I like to see more, whether in uniform or out of uniform, but they're there to help, you know, calm riots down or whatever, you know.
I think it's a fair thing to say that the vast majority of people that go into any kind of law enforcement have a true desire to help people. There are certainly, you know, the bad apples here or there, as there are in any career or any line of work. But, you know, the significant vast majority of people that choose law enforcement for a vocation or career are doing it because they truly want to help people.
And what great opening for women. I mean, like there was a shooting, a riot, where was San Diego? A woman chief of police. We got women chief, I think, in Washington, D.C., you know. So there's great opportunity for women in law enforcement, whether it's a federal agency, whether it's a county agency or local, you know. Great opportunities.
In fact, I actually, for one of the, I returned back to college to finish my bachelor's degree, and in one of the classes I'm taking, we had to interview a law enforcement officer, and I chose a female detective in Springfield. And
Springfield,
Montgomery County. Montgomery County, yes. And I was just really so impressed with not just her knowledge of the criminal justice system, but her compassion and her true desire to help.
Right.
She's actually done a lot of work with child victims, you know, either physical or sexual abuse. So it really takes a special person to be able to do that, and you have to be very thankful that there's people like that out there.
You know, I was a very close friend of Frank Rizzo, and I remember in the very beginning when he first became police commissioner, he didn't like the idea of having women police officers working with men, you know. But afterwards, him and Commissioner O'Neill, they worked it out, and they find out now that some of the women police officers are an asset to a police department.
Tremendous.
You know. And now you do you mentioned something about doing volunteer work for domestic. Can they use volunteer? Tell me, spread the word a little bit about what it's all about and how they can be helpful, because the people are ashamed to call, afraid to call. You know, and I know when I was a police officer, women would come in 3 o'clock in the morning with a swollen eye. My husband beat me up. So we wind up arresting him. Next thing in the morning, she didn't want to press charges and all. Right. So these were all things that, you know, that we were confronted with, you know. But the training, you know, education, training, and experience, that's the 3 things you put together if you want to be, do a job.
You know, I mean, the volunteer stuff I've done, it's not something everybody can do, obviously, because I am certified to carry a weapon. I'm licensed, I'm insured, and I'm bonded. I mean, that's a big difference when you're doing a job like that, where you're actually standing in security in a volatile situation. So that's not somebody everywhere you do. However, there are always a need for people for like intake, call takers for, you know, like domestic violence hotlines, which, you know, there are several Well, there's the National Domestic Violence Hotline, but there's also, I know Laurel House has a hotline that you can call into them. There's several different things you could do to volunteer, and also I know a lot of times they're looking for clothing, they're looking for bedding, they're looking for just the everyday stuff to live, because like I said, a lot of times these women have to leave their homes and they leave everything behind.
Yeah.
So there's also a tremendous need for that. And there again, I got to say, Laurel House is one of the most tremendous assets in Montgomery County.
Let me ask you this. I remember when I was head of the juvenile division in Norristown, whenever a mother would call me and say, Sergeant Cisco, I think my son is fooling around with drugs, but you're not going to arrest him, are you? You know? So it puts me in the spot that here it is, somebody's using drugs or anything. So people are asking for help. They don't know how to go. So the Laura House should be same thing here. Can they call and say, look, I think I have a problem. Can you come and help me figure this how it can be done, you know?
Laurel House actually...
Because they don't want to turn their husbands over, and then next thing you know, they don't have no money, they don't have no home, you know? So that's why they put up with it.
Yeah, but, you know, wow, that's unfortunately that can lead to a much worse situation.
That's right, that's right.
And that's the scariest thing about it. Laurel House does provide, they do have, I believe, counseling services. They do have group meetings, support meetings that you can go to. They're just such an amazing organization and an amazing resource for domestic violence, and they're mainly Montgomery County, but they certainly wouldn't turn anyone away. And there are other counties that do have organizations too. I mean, I don't have the same level of experience with them. I mean,
there should be an area for collecting information and also where they take action.
There is. And you know, along that line also, the next step that people don't think of is the effect it has on the kids. And the fact of the matter is, you know, a lot of times in these situations, the offender may still have some kind of rights to see his child. So then what does the mother do? Does she bring the child to the father? I mean, you know, and that's why, in my opinion, and this is actually something I've talked to attorneys about, that, you know, we're kind of like in the very beginning stages of even thinking about doing something like this, is maybe have some kind of custody visitation station or transfer station so that there can be a more secure environment in these volatile situations.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to tell the President of the United States what to do. I don't want to tell the Attorney General Sessions what to do, but I think I'm going to tell him what to do. I watched on TV where these guys in the college were getting big iron fences and breaking windows. I know what they do. They like it to do this big show while the TV camera's in there. So what I think they should do is get the policemen to run the cameras, and when they go around, pow, with the mace, you know. Why are you taking pictures? Get them there. You're right there. You're right up front, okay? And another thing I want to do, I think you ought to deputize all the mailmen. Let the mailman get a telephone so he can see something. He sees something bad. He sees something good. Somebody needs help. You know, they're already federal carriers, mail carriers, all right? So same thing with you, the constables. I think there should have more constables, more people with authority to be able to step in and stop riots and whatever else, okay? So, now I know more about, what am I hollering about?
I don't know.
I'll talk nice and easy. I'm so happy to have Ron Sassi here to tell me something about it, and also have his daughter Charity here, and I'm going to talk to your dad. So I want to thank you so much for coming here. I got 30 seconds. Tell me what you want to do. Tell me something about constables.
We're here to help. We're here to try to make a difference. If you get a letter from a constable, don't be afraid to call him. Find out what you need to do to rectify the situation, because he only wants to help you do just that.
Right. When in doubt, check it out. Okay? So until we meet again, keep bobbing and weaving, left hand high, stick and move, keep your chunks off the canvas, and may God bless each and every one. Rob, thank you. And
Thank
tell
you, man.
the magistrate I said hello.
I will.
Your dad, hello. Okay? And now let's say, Ala salud. That means to your health, baby. You got your health, you got everything. Here we go, baby.